Hello, everyone. I'm Lior Berezinski, Partner Solution Architect, specializing in media and entertainment at AWS. Welcome to a new episode of This Is My Offer, a web series where we showcase the innovative solution of our leading partners. So let's get ready to dive into a cutting-edge solution that's reshaping the media and entertainment industry. Today, I'm joined by our guest, Edward Churchward. Edward, welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what Arch does.
Thanks, Lior. I'm Edward Churchward, co-founder and CTO here at Arch. Arch allows companies to fully orchestrate cloud-based content creation studios in AWS to allow their workforce to have high-powered workstations, render, storage, and all the other infrastructure fully orchestrated inside their own AWS account. We can build up everything from the base network infrastructure all the way through to the workstations and the render and the storage and so much more. We founded Arch in 2016 and went in-house at a very large corporation for 2 years running their VFX workloads. And when we came out of there, we rebuilt the platform from the ground up on AWS and have been supporting customers ranging from very small visual effects and post-production firms all the way through to very large studios, game devs, and some of the largest companies.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ed. I've been hearing about these challenges from our customers all the time. Why do you think customers should move to the cloud? How does that help them to solve the challenges, and how does Arch help them in the journey?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many different reasons why customers engage with us. I would say, I'll go through them one by one. Building in the cloud fundamentally is hard. It's a very different skill set to a normal technical IT team. And many of the companies we engage with have fantastic IT teams who have years of domain expertise within their industry, which help streamline the workflows inside their company. However, when they move to the cloud, they're not DevOps engineers. And maybe they're not software engineers either. And they're very good at network switch configuration, security, and everything else that goes in and around that. So we can bridge that gap. We can provide them with an infrastructure in the cloud which automates the DevOps and the security and everything else, and allow them to bring their value to their company by using all the same installers they would normally use in our image pipeline process, and everything else that lives in around that. And we see that as a very successful path for a lot of our customers. Other reasons to use the cloud is obviously the flexibility and scalability. AWS has regions all over the world, and all of them have GPUs, which means we can be incredibly flexible where we can deploy customers. And we have a lot of customers who are based not just out of one location, so they may have a location in the United States, in Europe, in the Middle East, in India, in Australia. And our platform allows you to deploy data centers or facilities, as we call them, in those regions, allowing your teams to collaborate and get low latency connections to everywhere. It also stops over provisioning. So what we see a lot when you're dealing with an on-prem environment is you're ordering 100 new computers. And those 100 new computers need to be able to support many different workloads, right? So you might have someone doing Maya one day, and then Houdini the next day, and then Photoshop the next day, and Microsoft Word the next day, right? So often we'll see people just, right, well, we've got to cater for all the Houdini and Unreal 5 workflows. We're just going to buy these machines, right? But then for 4 days of the week, they're just doing Photoshop. These are massively overpowered, over-provisioned machines you're not getting full value out of. The nice thing about being in AWS is we are able to right-size machines for specific workloads using our templating system, which means you can have a fleet of machines specifically for Adobe Creative Suite workflows or specifically for Unreal 5 workflows with more GPU power and more CPU and more RAM. So that power of the cloud really helps a lot. And then, of course, what ties into that is future-proofing, right? So when you're doing these CapEx expenditures for all of these computers, you then have to write them off and depreciate them over 5 years, 3 years, whatever your company dictates. But as we know, GPUs, CPUs, their upgrade cycles are far quicker than that. And you may need a newer piece of equipment sooner than your depreciation of your existing CapEx asset will be. And as a result of that, AWS gives us the power to immediately switch you over to the latest hardware and technology, rather than having to either wait for that depreciation cycle or go back cap in hand to the CTO asking for additional money to be able to upgrade your machines out of cycle. So that's another really great reason of being in the cloud, is moving your CapEx to OpEx. So hybrid work is also a really key value proposition for companies. And hybrid really means two things when we talk to people, and they come to us using the word quite loosely. A lot of people think about hybrid work as just people, right? So they're either working from the office or they're working from home. Okay. Our platform's really well suited to that because obviously it gives them access to those resources in the cloud or their compute resources, regardless of whether in the cloud or not, from their home machine in a secure fashion without having to ship data drives to their local computers or whatever. They're getting access to all the corporate information in a central location and they're remoting into it. But hybrid can also mean I'm working with an on-premise environment and a cloud environment. I have data in both, and I need to move it between the two. And sometimes I need users to log into machines which are on-premise, and sometimes I need them to log into cloud machines, depending on where the resources are. Our system allows for that. We actually allow for showing your on-prem compute resources in our dashboard alongside your cloud one, so users can go between the two and get remote access to both, giving them a single pane of glass. And the last reason we see people coming is a lot of people see the benefits of security within the cloud. Now, of course, security is only ever as good as a human, right? Because it's the human at the end of the day who's configuring that secure layer, whether it be a firewall on premise or whether it be the security groups and VPC and network topology inside the cloud. But security and infrastructure as code allows for repeatable, auditable, and secure deployments of IT environments where you know that if I'm deploying in North America and then I need to deploy in Europe, I can, through code, make sure that it is an identical deployment methodology. And if there are updates that are needed to increase your security posture or to change certain things, it can happen across all the regions simultaneously, rather than manually having to go and do it on an on-premise environment or update firmware on a firewall. Amazon takes care of all of the hardware, firewall, firmware stuff, and the software is all done through code. So we have a couple of ways of deploying into customers' accounts. We either use least privilege and guardrailed roles to assume a role inside the account. So let's say I need to turn on a workstation. That would assume a very specific role, which has been audited by the customer, I'm going to turn that box on. An alternative method we're now offering is through private link and API gateway, which is arguably even a more secure way of deploying into a customer's account. So yeah, Lior, those are sort of like the reasons that we see people are moving to the cloud.
Love it. Thank you for touching on all those points, all relevant. And I'm sure customers are excited about and would love to see it in action. Is there any demo you can walk us through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the demos can take quite a long time because we have a very in-depth platform. So today I'm just going to give you quite a high-level overview of some of the features that we have. And then if anyone wants a deep dive, they can reach out to either yourself or us, and we can organize a deeper dive into the platform and all of the things. So what you've got here is just the landing page. Right now, I am logged in as an administrator, so I am seeing slightly more than a standard user would see. But what we do is we give users access to just the machines their technology team or their company has wanted them to give access to. So that can be done through skim provisioning. So we can integrate with like Entra or Okta or any one of the IDPs that are out there. And you can actually push through what we call teams, right, of users. And so I might have a team of 2D artists, and that team of 2D artists will get access to the 2D comp workstations, which are here dynamically. So the user will be provisioned in from the identity provider, and they would automatically get access. Now, we support 3 different ways of connecting through to a remote machine, and every one has its advantages and disadvantages. And we find that certain ones suit specific industries better or specific workflows better. And those 3 are HP Anywhere, which was formerly known as Teradici, Nice DCV, which I'm sure you know, Lior, which is the AWS product, and also Parsec, which is owned by Unity and is very popular in the game industry. And so a user would just come here, they'd actually see less on the screen than I'm seeing right now, click connect, and they would connect in to that workstation. What I'll show you now is what does an admin see? So if an administrator comes along, what do they see? Well, they can come along and have a look at what's going inside that facility, right? And the facility is what we call, think of it like a data center, right? And there are a few reasons why you might want to build facilities. And the most common one is just geographic, right? So I've got a team in London and a team in New York. Okay, I'll build a facility or a data center in Virginia, which is right next to New York, and I'll build one in the AWS in London region as well, so that the users get really low latency connectivity through to those workstations in the best possible experience. Other reasons we've seen people create facilities is project or departmental basis. And also we support any number of AWS accounts in a single Arch account. So if you had different organizational units which had different budgets. You could put one facility in one AWS account that went to that org inside your business, and another one that went to another one. And lastly, we can also create a facility that is your on-premise data center, right? So we can show your workstations from your on-premise environment and allow the users to connect in the same way that they would do the cloud in the fashion that I just showed you. So in this little overview here, we're just showing how many workstations, how much infrastructure or renders going on. And I can show here how many users logged in on a given day, and I can see how long their sessions were on the boxes. So I can see this user logged in for 8 hours and 46 minutes. This user logged in from 8 hours and 42 minutes, right? So you can get a little bit of an overview. And if I click on a day, it'll change it and it will show me the sessions for that day. So you can just get an overview of who was working and when they were working. And lastly, one of the things we often get is, well, how do I manage these machines? I can see that I've got users here and I've got computers, but like it's all very well saying I can add a workstation, right? But what is a workstation? A workstation is much more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. So you need to be able to have all the correct software and everything that's included with that workstation to allow the user to do it. So people, when they say, oh, we just want Photoshop, they don't really mean they just want Photoshop, because they probably want Slack, and they probably want Chrome, and they probably want Microsoft Office. And they probably want all these other applications which are ancillary to the primary workflow, but enable the user to function in a way that they're used to functioning, right? And for that, we have what we call our image pipeline. So our image pipeline is how we programmatically install software on computers, right? So it stops users or it stops administrators or IT teams having to go in and manually install everything and configure everything and then sys prep it and create an image and then test it. It's like this is all done through code. So what you'll see here is it's sort of a downstream process. So I'll start here with the base Windows. So you start with base Windows, and we're installing things like the NVIDIA drivers, and we're installing Wacom drivers for the tablets, and we're installing roaming profiles because all of the computers, be them Linux or Windows, have roaming profiles. So it doesn't matter which machine a user logs into, they're going to get their experience, all their configuration, all their settings. So once we've built this base Windows gold image, and we often see customers putting in security software in this base image as well, we can go downstream. So I can see the Adobe applications one here, which have things like, which you'll be familiar with, like Chrome and Blender and Photoshop and Maya and LucidLink, who's a partner of ours. And we partner with many different software vendors out there. We definitely are not prescriptive with how you work in our environment. We see ourselves as a piece of a jigsaw in your overall workflow. So if you come to us and say, well, we're using this storage vendor or we're using this render farm, we can integrate with that, right? We're not going to say, sorry, you can't use our platform because you're using this particular service. That's not how we function. So we can install all of this software. And again, if you want to see a deeper dive into this, we've got logs around all of this, all through the dashboard. And then you can also build downstream. So we've got a good core creative suite installer here. But let's say there was a team of people who wanted to use the Unreal Engine, right? They might want to inherit all of the software that came before. So they need all of that creative suite software and the Maya and the LucidLink. So we don't need to reinstall all of that. We can just layer on top of it the Epic Games Launcher and the Unreal Engine, right? And then they can use that in conjunction with everything else. And this all ties into our templating system and allows users to be able to deploy workstations anywhere in the globe. And it's not just workstations, to be clear. I'm showing you this from workstations, but these image pipelines allow us to build all sorts of things like if we're doing Iconic, which is a MAM, right? We can build Iconic storage gateways this way. Often we're dealing with Perforce, which is a great tool which people use a lot in the games dev and more in virtual production around Unreal. We can deploy Perforce servers using our image pipeline. So there's lots of different things we can deploy using this. I'm just showing it to you from sort of a workstation viewpoint.
Thanks for the demo. Seeing it in action is really fascinating. So it seems like this could be applied to other industries. What industries have you been working with so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, we started and sort of cut our teeth with the visual effects industry. But then when we came out of our initial engagement, we found that many of the other industry verticals used exactly the same software that the media and entertainment used. So if you think about Adobe and Autodesk and Epic Games and Leica and Bosch and Dassault and Maxon, Chaos Group, Avid, Blackmagic, The Foundry. I mean, I can carry on naming companies which produce brilliant software. They're used in so many different industries. So it's not just post-production VFX, but we're seeing engineering, construction, and advertising, and product design, and education, and sports, game devs, and so much more. And if you think about like how these companies are working, and I'll use the Unreal Engine as an example, which obviously came out of video games. then started getting used more and more by the media and entertainment industry, virtual production builds and things like that, and previs. Now you're seeing automotive manufacturers for their in-car entertainment systems leveraging NVIDIA chipsets and Unreal Engine to build immersive experience in your car, right? And again, they need compute to run that on, secure compute, housed inside their corporate environment, engaged with all of their corporate security, benefiting from everything that I've discussed before around the cloud of centralized workflows, centralized storage, the secure orchestration layer. So yeah, we've seen many different industry verticals engage with us since our launch.
I agree. I can see how these industries can benefit from this. I can assume a lot of customers are already using it. Would you mind sharing some of those stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a couple to share with you, and because this is M&E focus, I'll take it from that M&E standpoint, because that's the purpose of this interview. The first one I'll highlight is a company called Dimension Studios, or DNEG 360. They're using our platform. They have some of the largest virtual production stages in the world. They're using ones over in the West Coast. They're using ones of their own in London, in Italy, and anywhere else in the world. They're using our platform because they have remote teams all over the world to build the Unreal environments that are being used on these virtual production stages for movies they are producing, right? So they're producing, I don't know, 3 to 5 movies a year. They're building them around virtual production stages, and they're allowing artists from around the world to collaborate in AWS on high-powered machines, building out those Unreal worlds, synchronizing data back down onto the stages with Perforce, right? And currently we've rolled them out in the United Kingdom, in North America, and in India, right? And so those work, and they're benefiting from all sorts of other services, but that's their primary use case, is to do that. And they see the value proposition as they're freeing up office space. So if you think about being in London or being in Los Angeles, it's incredibly expensive office space that they've got. They don't want to take up 1,000 square feet just for a data center and the air conditioning bills and everything else that goes with it, right? And they want that fast iteration that I touched on before of like when the latest GPU comes out, they don't want to rebuy everything. They just want to be able to use it in the way that AWS is able to provision it, like with their new G6s. So that's one. On the other end, A&E Networks use us. And they use us for their media supply chain at the moment. So they have automations with other partners to move data in and out of S3 and in and out of storage like FSX and FSX ONTAP. And then the workstations that they're managing and deploying through the Arch platform allows the editors to go in and manipulate the footage that they have to however they want to use it for the media supply chain. And then they're publishing that back out, and it goes through into some other AWS services from our platform and down their media supply chain. So it's quite different workflows. One's much more editorial based, one's more content creation based with regards to the Unreal. And then obviously we have construction firms and everything else using the platform for very different workflows. But those are some high level overviews of how our platform is being used.
No, thank you. Very interesting use cases. Customers would love to have the same, I'm sure. How can they get started with Arch? I know we touched about it a little bit before, but what's the best way to get customer connected to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So Arch is available in the AWS marketplace as a private offering. We always like to work with AWS in partnership. We find it's a very powerful combination when you've got the customer, AWS, and Arch all gunning for the same end result, right? So they can get in contact with yourself, Lior. They can get in contact with us directly through our website and request a demo to further enlighten them on all of the features that we have around SAML, SCIM, the scripting, the GitHub integration we've got, and all the rest of it.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you very much for your time. A big thanks to the Arch team for the great partnership so far. And thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to check back for more partner highlights, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.
Thanks very much, Lior. Thank you, everyone.